Most High God, yes. And so, without wasting much time, without me talking too much, we want to invite Pastor Isaac Asiedu to give us a powerful opening prayer. Put your hands together.
Well, hallelujah. I want to humbly ask us to be on our feet and let's pray. We are praying. Most gracious Father, we thank you for today. We thank you for what you are doing today. We know that it is the beginning of greater things, and we bless your name for this grace and this permission you have given us to transform lives and transform communities. In the mighty name of our Lord, we pray. Everybody will say a big amen.
To our beneficiaries, I want to hear your voice. Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy to hear your voice. And good morning to our dignitaries, to all the specially invited guests and partners. Thank you so much for attending. So my name is Daniel Entry, and I am the Executive Director of the Africa Skills Hub. So a brief of the Africa Skills Hub. We are a youth employment and a business incubator center in Accra. We are based in Accra. Currently, we are here in Tamale, also with an office in Takoradi too. So the whole essence of what we do as an organization sits within the, I would say, the thematic areas of 6 things I'll be mentioning shortly. But as I mentioned, we are youth employment. So then you could see our focal point is young people. So young people, that is women in there, urban and rural young people, skilled and unskilled, formal and informal. Those are target people. Those are the people we'd always want to work with. And in the last years, that has been the various participants or the various people we've been working with in the last years. So our thematic areas are 6, and I just want to share that with you. Then I tell you a bit about WELI. So our first thematic area is women economic empowerment. And for women economic empowerment as a youth organization, what are we seeking to do? How do we help empower and create enabling space and platforms for young women within the next 10 years? That is one of our. Then the next thing on our mind, which I would say is our first love, is work readiness. And so then work readiness, we are looking at from graduates through to the world of work. How do we help young people to move to the corporate world, climb the ladder within the career pathways of entrepreneurship, employment? How do we help them with various opportunities in that space? Then the next thing, which is also a thematic area of what we do, is what we call access to capital for entrepreneurs. So we call this ACE. Then we have what we call access to market initiative. I think the last one I would say is, which is also quite very dear to our hearts, and that is on outreach and engagement campaigns. So in a nutshell, for the skills hub, those are the things we have our hands on. We are in Accra, we are in Tamale, I mentioned we are also in Takoradi. WELI, so Women's Entrepreneurship and Livelihood Initiative. So this came as a result of the impact COVID brought to our country or our world. We all know what COVID has. And so WELI is a post-COVID responsive program. So this together with the Canada World Youth, develop an international development organization in Canada. They've been around, this is their 50th year, so they've been around for 50 years. And with support from Global Affairs Canada. Global Affairs Canada is also, I would say, the development financing agency of the government of Canada. And for this, we, in the next years, what are we trying to do? Really to help bring recovery to our women. We're running this project currently in Ghana and Senegal. So one Anglophone, one Francophone country. And in Ghana, we are doing 2 areas in Ghana. We're doing Northern Ghana and Volta Ghana. So in Northern Ghana, this is where we have the Suhuyini Food and Beverage Incubator. We are engaging 100 young women And for the next few months, there will be a lot of various things that women will be going through. The whole essence is to make sure we help them to move on, become economically empowered, financially resilient and independent, to really recover better, and I'll say build back and reset back their lives and their businesses. Now the last component as part of WELI is what we call the access to market. So then how do we help create markets for our women? And so then yes, you are here, amazing products are out there. But for this product, after helping you to refine that, add various ingredients to it, various initiatives around that, how do we help you to move it to the next level? And so that is where, together with other stakeholders again, we are looking at creating both the national and international markets to really help our women to leverage on that and ensure they move their products to the next level. As an organization, this year, one of our things we are hoping to do before end of year is to launch an online MSME shop to make sure various businesses that we train create their own shops. Because I tell you, the new wave now is how do we locate not your physical customer, but your digital customer. And so during the lockdown, we were locked, we were in our homes, but people who had online businesses were still making sales. And so they were still finding their digital customers. They had shops online. And so one of the very important components of this program, this project, is also to help our women to really embrace the new wave, to be digitally oriented, to embrace what technology will be doing, and what COVID has brought to us. In that case, we have nothing than to ensure that we all become digitally more oriented, work in this digital wave and space. So concluding, I would say we are quite happy. Just once again welcome you all here. Thank you for coming. Thank you for making a way. Thank you for.
That was indeed an insightful one. And of course, African Skills Hub, we are doing a lot. And like you rightly said, we have been committed to empowering women over the years as a youth employment and a business incubator. And I want to encourage every young lady out there that this is an opportunity. Should you get this kind of opportunity, you should try and then get yourself involved.
Yeah, under the WELI project, we will be working under the gender equity aspect of the program. Basically, we will be identifying strong women and men networks to work with them. And I'm sure you will have the idea with this. And in that respect, we'll build capacities of these networks in the area of gender and sexual and reproductive health and life skills development.
We thank Ash so much and the donors for bringing this opportunity to our people. That is why we have accepted to be part of this project, because we know that there are a lot of projects that you all and many out there can benefit from that.
We want to assure you that you have our backing. We are ever ready to give you the maximum support that you need in the processing of your products, in the inspection and licensing of your facilities, to get food hygiene permits, to operate your businesses successfully.
And exposure. Over the years, I have been working in areas of gender, more particularly with women. Among some of the things I have done was to facilitate and coordinate the establishment of both girls and boys senior high schools, just to contribute to empowering girls and boys education in Sola and Damango, respectively.
I have a background where I started off as a youth worker when I was 18, before I finished university. That took me to understand some of the issues and the struggles that young people face, especially delinquent young people that I was working with. And over the years, after I came back to Ghana from Europe, Africa, I went a lot in the NGO background because from a young age, I've always, like almost everybody here, been interested in impact. How do we make a difference? How do we identify our own products? How do we make our own wealth? How do we stop being dependent on other nations and have this aid model which we can all admit has not worked in the long run, although it has been useful in some cases. So how do we win Africa off dependency and move towards projects and support programs that ensure its sustainability, empowers individuals, and gives them dignified livelihoods? That has been the burning question in my heart. So that took me on a journey, and I've worked for almost all the major NGOs across the region. As I sit here, I've been to over 40 countries. I have met and discussed and published all kinds of things. But I still had that burning question that why is Africa not sustainable? And so that drove me into social entrepreneurship. I don't know, about 8 years ago, the shift studying and the dialogues and the conversations with donors, of which I do have a lot, began to shift towards, how are we going to be sustainable? Africa is on its own. This model cannot continue. And we see various initiatives that have sprung up over the years, from social enterprise to impact investing to various different models. And so that is what also brings me to Africa. So when this opportunity came in Canada World Youth, who are brilliant partners, let's all clap for them. And Global Affairs Canada contacted us and were willing to explore some of the issues and the questions that we had. We're very, very excited. One thing I've been advocating for is the end of aid across Africa. I don't think it's a sustainable model. I think it is part of our problem. And so how can we look at something that has impact and at the same time produces livelihoods, but at the same time also looks at the community issues? So in a nutshell, that is what became of WELI. And then also looking at the unenabling environment, unenabling entrepreneurship or social enterprise environment all around, which is not producing the jobs or the manufacturing or the value chains that are needed to produce the level of employment that we need on this continent. And so when you look at WELI, it's a pilot, but we had the opportunity to look at cooperatives, how they are faring, groups of women. We also had the chance to design an incubator. The word Suhuyini comes from a community that we went to see. I won't mention their names. They were the first place when we were doing the baseline. They welcomed us. They told us their stories. They told us what they had been going through. They had told us how COVID had impacted their lives. And they told us what we could do that would make a difference. And so afterwards, we said, this is your story. So you get to choose the name of the incubator. And they came up with Suhuyini, which means good intentions, new beginnings, that kind of spirit. That's what they gave to us in the banning. And so we called it that. So for us, this is a new beginning. It may be a pilot, but it is to look at how do we unlock innovations in girls. I know that all of you are so brilliant and so hardworking. I mean, I'm amazed, we've all been amazed that during the interviews to see how even in your own little ways, some of you have lost your livelihood, some of you don't even know the next step, some of you don't know where to go, some of you in the face of gross lack of opportunities, should I say, have still managed to find some kind of business, are doing very, very amazing things. And we all know the position that we've had in Africa. We know the lack of opportunities that extend to us. It extends to both male and females, but for the woman, there's different other dimensions. So how do we tackle that? So that everybody walks out of here feeling like they can be a Michelle Obama, understanding that now women are leaders, women are heads of states, women are doing anything that they want to be, and so can you. All we hear are the sad stories. But there's so much locked in your culture, your traditions, your foods, which have never come to light, which have never come to the surface. I come here and there are all kinds of spices, all the way to, Upper East, Upper West, and then even the new regions. Why don't we look at what benefits this have and how we can unlock them to even create new products or value addition? And so these were some of the ideas that we had in our mind, and we are excited that we are here today. I'm excited to see this day happen. I'm excited to welcome all of you, and we are going to have crazy, crazy fun.
You will notice that in our cultural settings, women are naturally not allowed to own certain property. So as a result of it, if you cannot own property, it means that even your seed capital to some extent is being limited. If you want to embark on any activity where you need a startup and where your culture background does not allow you to own certain basic assets, what happens? It means you will be interested, but you cannot explore your intentions. So for me, I think one of the things that have brought us here, basically key and critical factor is our sociocultural dynamics. Again, you even notice that all the time we say women are marginalized, they are disadvantaged. Were we disadvantaged naturally as women? Is it God who has made it so that if you are born a woman, you should be disadvantaged? No. By God's own plan, if you trace the way the world was made, even to creation, where Adam and Eve was even made, you will notice that definitely we were all made as co-equals. So it is not for nothing that it was Adam's rib which was taken to make the woman. So a woman, even from God's own plan, is to complement the man. Because without you, the woman, then the man is incomplete. So it was for nothing, or it was even for which main reason, that when the woman finally was brought to life from Adam's rib, what was the comment Adam made? That indeed, this is now a bone of my bone and a flesh of my flesh. Somebody that I can also call my partner. Because in the Garden of Eden, you notice that all the other creatures had male and female, but man never had. So the question is, if God's own plan was for us to complement our male partners, then why should we continue to be disadvantaged? The reason, again, as I said, is by our culture. And this culture, when you look at it critically, you will notice that the power of authority is in the hand of the man. I'm very religious, but permit me to speak to some of these realities, though sometimes it's very uncomfortable, but we need to begin thinking about that. You will notice that even with our own biblical and Islamic books that guide our way of operation, we're all being written by the man, isn't it? So definitely it is very clear that if the man is the man who is in authority, who is the one to carry out a lot of these laws, definitely many of them would go to their advantage. Many will go to their advantage. But over the period, then we try to socialize by teaching the young ones, year or generation after generation, to be able to live what is expected by these religious laws. And some of them, though I know to some extent, it gives some kind of unity and rules for us to be able to coexist, which is good. But to some extent, some have really marginalized the women. And I think those that have marginalized us and has brought us this far, we need to begin questioning, reviewing them, and together even with the men, because they have instituted these rules, then together we'll see which are the rules that we think with our contemporary we could revise them. I always like this saying that even with policies, you don't break policies. When you break a policy, anywhere at all, it is criminal. So with even religious laws, when you break them, then I would even say it is sinful. But in the sight of that, we can mend them. Wow. When you mend them, it doesn't mean that you have broken them. So the situation, the position that we find ourselves mostly is being oriented by virtue of our background. As for the examples, I'll keep them as the discussion progresses. Thank you
so much, Madam. Wow. So that is obviously from your narrative, the underlying factor is the socio-cultural dynamics. So that is the root cause of everything. So then, just a straightforward question will be, or a follow-up to that will be, in this 21st century, generation of new millennials and new cultures and new things, and these days communication, engagements, and education is really something that has moved to a different level in many parts of our world. When you take our context of Ghana, gone are the days most of our parents, our grandmothers were not that educated. Currently, almost everyone here can read and write. Everyone here is, I believe, knows a bit about the social waves and the social media and others and the various other things. So my question to this issue is, so how do we tackle this socio-cultural dynamic? What is the way forward? We need to address this around this marginalization of women.
So once again, thank you very much. To answer this, I would begin by saying that, something that you are used to for years and for generations, to bring about a change may not be very easy, particularly when you intend having the change drastically. But I want to believe that if we have all the intentions and at least try to trigger the process gradually and strategically, and I would even say that more tactfully, then with time you can bring about that change. And so, when you want to bring about this change, one of the things I would say is through advocacy. You need to have advocacies, like programs where, if it is possible, you bring in the opinion leaders. You bring in the men. When you sit together and you discuss, and then you would even meet each other halfway. I am saying this because from the encounter I have had with a number of communities, many of the things which we always think are our culture have no good reasons. They have no good reasons. For instance, some communities, we are all aware that women do not farm yam. Women do not farm yam. But I wonder how many of us have taken time off to find out the reason for which women do not farm yam, which some of us as researchers try to pursue it to find out. Because as much as we want to bring a difference, we also don't want to throw away the culture of the people, because the culture of the people is their identity. And if they lose some of their cultural characteristics, they may end up not having an identity. But some of the cultural, attributes, I believe, can be challenged, particularly when you know reasons for which those cultural issues exist. So, for instance, one of the communities, when we asked them why women cannot farm yam, and explored it further from different discussions, at the end of it, it came out that it is just because it is very tedious. Making of the mounds, how many women, that was the question they asked, that which woman can make a mound? And it is very critical. It's very significant if you want to really produce yam. If you cannot make mounds, then can you farm yam? No. But in some other communities, where women are not allowed even to cultivate, guinea corn, they have a very significant reason for that, which is culturally established. And the reason being that culturally, the guinea corn is what is used to perform the dowry of the woman in that community. So how can you, a woman, cultivate guinea corn for it to be used for your own dowry? It means you are dowrying yourself. I'm saying all this to say that we can cause a change, but in causing a change, you need a certain level of information. You need knowledge about why the people are doing certain things. And when you understand and you know that there are no any cultural reason, any good reason why some of these cultural things are being done, then you can negotiate with the communities to see how best you can bring about this change. Other than that, most times you try it, particularly we external people who are development workers, we initiate it, you leave the community, they go back to their former way of doing things. So to be able to bring about this change, I think that you need to lobby with the opinion leaders, with the men, starting from your home. The lobbying should start from your home. In a situation where the man will not help you in cooking, which we all know that even when a man does it, he becomes a mockery. You know? But in a situation where you, the woman now, you are a working class woman, and you work, and you need time. And the man knows how relevant your contribution has been as a result of you being a working class woman. So when you start and you lobby and negotiate, then with time, the man can understand and then see the best way he would help you so that together you can live a more peaceful life. Wow. So issue of advocacy, lobbying, I think, is very important. And knowing the root cause of some of these cultural dynamics and now tackle those you can tackle. Other than that, because of the identity of the people, they may resist any change.
Thank you so much, madam. Let's really clap and appreciate Madam Abijaja. I think she mentioned advocacy as a player in this, or a medium or a channel to help us in tackling this. And when I made my presentation, I mentioned to you, this program is really a very holistic kind of program. So there's an entrepreneurship aspect, women will be coming here. My colleague from NOSAC mentioned the various advocacy engagements that will be happening. So for the advocacy activities, please, we'll be making sure, and once again, I mentioned commitment, discipline is quite key on the beneficiaries. We'll be going to a lot of communities, a number of communities to do amazing and a few outreach and engagement initiatives. And please don't count yourself out, make sure you are part of that. As together, we all drive this change, we all drive, because it's from listening to Madam Abijaja, it's really a mindset problem, and together we need to drive that easily. It takes time, but someone has to begin. So advocacy is one of the mediums she mentioned. She also mentioned other channels of opinion leaders and lobbying. And BIDU and again NOSAC, these are some of the things we'll be doing here in some of our various community engagements. So there will be a few opinion leaders who will be engaging on some issues that we think has to be brought to the table. Get the women in there, get yourself, because some of these things, what we are going to do is to ensure that for the community dialogues, you are there to also share some various things by yourself. And please, these are things we wouldn't want you to absent yourself. We would love it for you to be there. So thank you so much, Madam Abijaja, for that. Very insightful. My next question was really on the role of men and community leaders and others. And I think she touched on that. Men have a role to play in there. Husbands, ourselves, we have something doing there. Brothers have a role to play. Uncles and I think men of all status have a role to play in there when us together we drive this change. So Madam Abijaja touched on that. But I want to zoom into this program, that is the WELI incubation or the Suhuyini Food and Beverage Incubator. And I want to ask Madam Abijaja, for the curriculum she's trying to design, what are the kind of things our ladies should be expecting in the curriculum?
Thank you very much. I think from the discussions so far, some of the things for me I think would be very exciting for us as women and ambassadors for a change. I see you people as ambassadors for a change. So if we are ambassadors, we should be able to empower ourselves, as I said, with relevant information that can make us confident and be able to make us very much needed to bring about the change. So, coming from this perspective, some of the things I tried to put on paper to guide our discussion and learning process is setting the context. Setting the context. And setting the context in this session, I would be taking participants, or is it that we usually emphasize on participatory discussions. So together with you, we'll be looking at issues of myths. Issues of myths. Because we are limited, we are restricted, because we are holding on to certain labels, certain stereotypes. So what are these myths? What are these stereotypes? By the close of the session, I would like us to appreciate and catalog them, and if possible, subject them to reasoning to see, are there myths and stereotypes that we can challenge as a community? Because you are in the community and you know the heart of these myths. So are there myths we can challenge? If not, why can't we challenge them? And if we can challenge them, how do we start? So we'll be looking at that. And narrow it down to also look at our roles and responsibilities as women. Our roles and responsibilities as women. And just to make it more hidden, because if I expose everything, I'll kill the excitement, is how can we use strategic gender needs to make a difference? At the end, we have to also think about that. And then also look at sex and gender-based violence. What is it? We look at videos and talk to them, and if possible, put ourselves into some of those scenarios to see if you were the one, how would you feel? If it was your sister, your daughter, how would you feel? And together, if it is not exciting, then what can we do as a group to bring about a change? What can we do to make sure that it doesn't even happen at all? Some of the issues that may come up, you realize that even we, the women, we have come to accept them as normal. Though we are suffering in them, but we have accepted them. All for the sake of peace, for the sake of our children, for the sake of marriage, and all that. So by the end of this discussion, or the sessions, we would end up concluding to make a difference in our own lives. I wouldn't tell you, do this, do that, but you speak to the options, subject them to further scrutiny, look at the merits and demerits of all the options, and then the question would be, which of them would I choose? So there are still even a lot that we'll be looking at, but basically, these are the few that will guide the discussion.
I already I'm trying to see how I can be part of this. I know it's all women, but I think there's something to come and learn and teach my wife and daughter, so I'll do that. But you can see the excitement, you can see the various models Madam Abijaja has mentioned, the curriculum she's trying to design. What I'll come back to my question again. My humble plea to our ladies, please, commitment, discipline is key. Get involved and make sure you really, it has to be a kind of participatory kind of workshop. Then you can really see yourself learning a lot. Just my before let me I think Anatu hasn't spoken for a while, so let me just ask. We are closing here, so for Anatu to a quick remarks. Then the same question I'll ask Madam Abujaja to answer that. But as she being the programs director, at the end of this incubation program, when I meet any of the ladies or any of our partners meet the ladies, what should we expect? Or what is the kind of substance from the angle of their business, from the angle of their knowledge? When Abujaja mentioned the need for knowledge around sexual gender-based violence, and from the angle of their insight with business and engagement, what should we expect from any of the participants at the end of the program?
We expect the participants to have a global mindset that is still attuned to the culture that they come from. Like Madam Abuja just said, we are not trying to change anybody's culture. We are trying to tease out the elements that hold us back as women. When women are held back, it is almost as if half of the workforce of the world or the society we live in has been held back. And so that also accounts for some of the poverty issues that we have in our society. If you are in a household and only half of you are working and the other half are not being allowed to be productive, you have a problem. So some of the things we look around innovation, we look at some of the marginalization, the issues around children, etc. Because women have not been able to rise to the role that they could and be able to assist and help and give of their full God-given potential. So that's what we are hoping for everyone who participates here. The world is global. You live in a global ecosystem to learn what is out there and then to inspire confidence. As Madam Abujaja rightly said, knowledge is key. Now, when you have the knowledge, you can decide what you want to do with it, but at least you should be given access to it. For that, we then expect you to produce a certain level of self-confidence. Some of you might finish and decide that you don't want to be food entrepreneurs. When you discover something else that you've always had a dream in you that you want to pursue. Some of you might say, okay, I'm doing this as a response to COVID. Some of you might say, oh, this is something I can really do and be able to see the potential in the food ecosystem and how much money that can be made out of there, etc. But it's not enough to have knowledge. It has to be manifested as well. So there comes the food and drugs, the training around, the practical training, so that we are better at what we do. A lot of times, whether it is women or men, etc., we complain about being marginalized. We complain about not having opportunities, etc. But when we are doing something, we don't go out of our way to be the best that we can be. And that sometimes puts us, limits us. It's the same thing with the arguments against, oh, we Africans, the whole world looks down on us. Okay, that could be true, and we have suffered some, what are we doing to correct that perception? And it comes by unlocking so much creativity, unlocking solutions to the world problem, etc. So we are looking at both. Somebody who comes out who is very confident, who has been able to work through her levels of trauma and be able to identify where she has been repeatedly told she cannot do or she cannot be. She's realized that she can be, and now applying it to a certain sector. The food sector ideally, but beyond. Some of the things you'll be learning from food and drugs, it's not necessarily just for the food sector. There are various issues around hygiene, that can even apply to your life and even to any business that you are doing that you talk about. So we are looking at also getting that expertise. Then all the other things like digital marketing, what opportunities there exist. What kind of business do you want to be? Do you want to be a micro? Do you want to be a macro? Do you want a petty trader or etc.? Being able to really chart your path so that perpetually you don't have this situation where you meet a woman and she's sort of confused, etc. Nobody from Suhuyini Beverage Incubator is going to be confused about their role here on this planet, why God put them here and where they are going by the end of this training. And like I said, it is not for us to just say, oh, this is what you're going to do, but it's really opening that up for you. We'll also be studying women throughout history who have been able to take strides, even against things that were so difficult that we will look at various women, even those in Europe, those in Africa, and do comparative and learn from that so that going forward, wherever we find ourselves, we know that we are a solution and not a problem.
It's also officially declared this Suhuyini Food and Beverage Incubator duly launched. Training begins on Monday. We look forward to for the next few weeks, making sure for the next few months, engaging you both online and offline. One component I think we didn't share that is, but we'll definitely for the participants is we'll be having volunteers in Canada working with you one-on-one directly. So then that is one of the components in the program. And so then for those, if you can't, depending on if you don't have a laptop, you don't have this, the team in the office will make sure they'll be engaging you. You come here, there'll be a timetable when you be engaging your volunteer in Canada to have a short discussion, to understand your business, to see how they can also be of help to you. So these are all components of the program. an aspect I forgot to mention that. So once again, thank you so much. Thank you to the team here. Thank you to our amazing partners, SBA, NORSAC, UDS, all our fantastic partners that are on board, BIDU. And to the ASH team, to our project director, Anatudin Lawal, making all this happen. And to the team here, Dorothy and Rashid, and also the team from Accra, we have Beatrice, we have Perfect here too, and myself too. So thank you so much.
The lab technicians are behind there. You can take your samples to them and then do with continue with the screening. And also, after the pictures, please, you can just leave. If you haven't gone through the whole screening process, please, so all partners and beneficiaries, they're supposed to put some pictures.
Hey, yeah, ciao.
There'll be a shelf where we will put everything, so. So partners,
What is wrong
these are products, and so partners, please join them. Partners, please join them.
They won't come. Yes. So I'm thinking we should reposition ourselves here. Yes. In front of the tent here.
Get away from there. Sit up.
Awesome photographer, awesome designer is ready to take the pictures. So. Partners, please, let's go this way. As beneficiaries, also take individual pictures. Partners.